Welcome to Messy May. I am Kaylee Gray and I am legitimately excited that you are here. I know this is the internet and I know there are at least two screens between us, but man, human to human, the fact that you're here, the fact that you are even vaguely thinking about considering possibly putting paper to paper, any of that fact alone makes me incredibly happy and excited. And very uncool enthusiasm aside, I'm going to tell you quickly before we get started today's prompt the 3 ways that you can make the most out of your May. And they are the same 3 ways that we do at Get Messy. And so I invite you to extend that to yourself this May if you're joining us. Number 1 is to bring your messy self. As imperfect, as glorious as you are, bring that imperfect self. If you are a mess today, bring that. If you are having a really good day, bring that. Bring all of it to the paper, bring all of it to the challenge, and create anyway, in despite of, including, just welcome it in. Number 2 is to take what you need from this challenge. It's called a daily-ish challenge for a reason. There's no art police going to come to you if you don't create 31 out of the 31 days. If you create 1 out of the 31 days, we are going to celebrate that, and I invite you to celebrate yourself too. And that leads us to the third point, which is more than 0 is enough. If you do one thing this month for your creating, I'm doing a little dance on your behalf. I'm not going to show you that dance. You don't want to see it. That may make you feel worse, but I am, very uncoolly enthusiastic about all of your creating. So welcome to Messy May. The first theme is starting. And so we're going to do that. So the prompt today is start. You can start by opening your journal to a new page, which is what I'm going to do here with this moleskin, or by binding a journal just for Messy May. I'm going to be doing the latter, but if you felt like simply turning the page and marking the new chapter in your journal, you can do that too. I'll show you exactly how. I am stamping it down with a vintage stamp set. And yeah, it really can just be that easy. I just want to do whatever your heart feels like doing. There you go. Now, as I said, I'm going to be binding this journal, and so let me show you how. Let's rewind. I want you to get 8 sheets of paper. I'm going to be showing you a very simple pamphlet stitch. If you've never bound a journal before, I promise you this is super easy. And if you have before, this is still super easy, and it never does not get easy. I did add fabric to it, which does kind of make it a little bit more complicated, but just have fun with it. Just have fun with it. So choose 8 pieces of paper, excluding the cover. Now, what the 8 will do is each one of the 8 will give you 4 journal pages to work from, which will give you 32, and that's quick maths, and that means you'll have enough pages for Messy May, no more, no less. If you wanted to add more, you are obviously welcome to do that, but I want to keep things very simple for myself, and I'm also going to do it at a little bit smaller than A5 just because that's what I felt like. So get your 8 pieces of paper. When you've decided the size, cut down your papers to size. You can make them a tiny bit bigger. You can make them a tiny bit smaller. You don't have to get them exactly the same because this is imperfection at its finest. And so I encourage you to choose all the wonky sizes because that's what makes it interesting. What also makes it interesting is using fabric. Now, I felt like having a fabric cover just because I had done them in the past and I loved it. And I spent some time thinking about how I wanted to do it. Usually when I do a fabric cover, I just cover the external layer, but I wanted this to be the actual outside layer. When you're binding with pamphlet stitch, you're going to take an awl, or you can even use a needle, just something pokey. You go right in the middle and then you do 2 on either side. It doesn't matter if you get it exactly in the middle. It doesn't matter if you get it equidistant. Just matters that you poke 3 holes. Then you're going to take some thread, and I always use about 3 times the length, which is way too much, but I like too much. I'd rather have too much than too little. You're going to thread a needle. Now I'm using embroidery thread. You can really just use anything. This is such a simple way of binding. I'm going to go from the outside in, so you're going to go in the middle one. And because I'm using fabric, it is a bit more finicky than when it's with paper. If it's your first time binding, I recommend that you just do paper and you forget the fabric. And, you know, when I was binding this, there was so much imperfection in here, and I did think about refilming it, but I have asked you to bring your imperfect selves, and so it just would not be, it would not have been cool if I hid my imperfection. So yeah, so this fabric did make it a little bit more finicky, especially for an easy one. But if you're using papers, you know, maybe like tissue paper or something a bit thinner, then you can also just thread it in and then continue with the other one like I'm doing over here. Going from the outside in is a bit more difficult for me. Always inside out is much easier, but this is imperfect binding and it's going to stay together no matter how much I mess it up. And I want you to know that too. It's a great binding. So we're going to go from the outside to the inside in the center hole, then out at the top hole, and then back in through the bottom hole. And if your thread comes undone like mine has over here, just rethread it, no biggie. And then you're going to go out through the center again. Now, once you go out, try and get it on the other side of that glorious line. Can you see there? Because we are going to be tying it into a bow. I like the bow on the outside. If you want the bow on the inside, if you want a little bit neater, you just make sure in the beginning, when you go in the center hole, to go from the inside out. That's it. Then once it's done, you're going to squeeze it tight as you can, and you're going to make a little bow. Now, if you're me, I encourage you to spend the next bunch of time obsessing over the fact that because you never iron anything, it looks very untidy. And you don't mind untidy, but this in particular looks untidy. So if you're me, you can fold the fabric down. If you're not me, don't fold the fabric down. Screw the fabric, who cares? I recommend Fabri-Tac though. Fabri-Tac is great. I don't feel like sewing it, I don't feel like threading it, and so I am using glue. Fabri-Tac is a magical glue that works so well with fabric, especially because I hate respooling my sewing machine and because hand threading, while I do love it and while I maybe might update the cover later on, it does take a long time. So I want to make these even neater. You know, I've folded them now, and because I was just too damn lazy to iron them. And so I've cut some scrapbooking cardstock into that size, and I'm going to glue those down with Fabri-Tac. Fabri-Tac kind of feels like when my kid has a cold and I'm trying to blow his nose. But it's totally worth it because, yeah, this is much better than matte medium, than normal glue, than sewing, all those things combined. Fabri-Tac is honestly, it is the one product that I will fully recommend compared to any other product. So the journal is bound and it is fully functioning. It's ready for art. It's ready for the cover. I've got this Messy May stamp, this vintage alphabet stamp set, and I'm so excited to use it. And I'm going to do it very simply and put it on a label. There you go. I'm going to add it to the cover. And that is my Messy May journal for the month. I encourage you to make your own. Maybe don't use fabric, or if you do, just be prepared for some crazy imperfection. Maybe that's a good way to start the month, is with this insane imperfection. Look at that absolutely glorious little bow. These make me so happy. These little bows make me so happy. And the torn paper peeking out. yeah, this is just a good way of making me love perfection. Now it's your turn to start.